if you want to make a change, it really comes down to three options. Option one is do nothing. You can choose to do nothing. And if that's your choice, great, own it. But do nothing means I'm going to keep doing the same things and I'm going to keep getting the same results, okay? Option two is to DIY it. You're going to do it yourself. You're going to figure it out yourself. Watch YouTube videos, read books, listen to podcasts, go to seminars, trial and error. If it's a business issue, a relationship issue, a health issue, you can probably figure it out yourself. Option three, if you have a problem or a challenge, is to find a proven system that delivers the results you want and then invest in that system. Hey, it's Todd from ConstructionLeadingEdge.com, and I'm going to ask you 7 questions. And if you answer no to all of them, you should probably skip this episode. However, if you answer yes to any of these questions, then this episode is for you. So the first question is number 1. Do you often find yourself feeling unfulfilled no matter what you accomplish? Number 2, have you set ambitious goals, but you struggle to appreciate your progress along the way? Number 3, are you constantly comparing yourself to others and feeling like you fall short? Number 4, do you have a pattern of setting new goals immediately after achieving old ones without celebrating your accomplishments? Number 5, have you ever felt like you're on a never-ending treadmill, like a hamster wheel, always chasing the next milestone, but never quite arriving? Number 6, is your happiness and satisfaction contingent on external validation or approval from other people? And number 7, do you tend to put happiness on the other side of achievement? So 7 questions. If you answered no to all of those, then you could probably skip on forward to the interview portion with Alex Thompson. However, if you answered yes, then you are likely living in the gap. And we want to work on that. I'm going to give you an exercise that will help you solve some of these challenges. So according to Dan Sullivan, he's actually written a couple of books about this, but the book I'm looking at is 10x is easier than 2x. We did an entire podcast episode book report on this. Highly recommend the book. Dan Sullivan said in this book, quote, "The gap is a lens by which you measure what is against what could be. In the gap, you're measuring what is against what you believe should be. When you're in the gap, you're measuring yourself or your situation against an ideal." He goes on to say that ideals are like the horizon in the desert. No matter how many steps you take toward the horizon, it continues extending out ahead of you. When you're measuring yourself against ideals, it's sort of like measuring yourself against the moving horizon and then being mad at yourself for not being at the horizon. And his news flashes reach the horizon. So no matter how much you achieve or how much you consume, if you're in the gap, your endless, quote, needing will never go away. It will only get worse. The gap can never be satisfied externally, even though you may spend your life chasing that mirage. In the book 10x is easier than 2x, there's a quote. He says, take, for example, the actor Matthew Perry, who recently passed away. He starred as Chandler Bing in the TV show Friends. In his memoir, Perry describes his lifetime of chasing fame, women, alcohol, and drugs to ultimately fill a gap inside. Here's what Matthew Perry said. "I was pretty sure fame would change everything, and I yearned for it more than any other person on the face of the planet. I needed it. It was the only thing that would fix me. I was certain of it. But the magic never lasts. Whatever holes you're filling seem to keep opening back up. It's like playing whack-a-mole. Maybe it was because I was always trying to fill a spiritual hole with a material thing." Dan Sullivan says, being in the gap, like any addiction, is a sickness. Entrepreneurs may experience a lifetime of achievement, yet their self-confidence will decrease with every win. Many successful people who adopt this mindset take extreme measures to numb their pain. So does any of that sound familiar? Any of those symptoms sound familiar? Constantly chasing after things, comparing yourselves to other things, never being satisfied with your accomplishments, putting happiness on the other side of achievement, feeling like you're measuring yourself against the horizon, and then being mad at yourself for not being at the horizon. It's exhausting, isn't it? This is something that I struggle with a lot. I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with living in the gap. And it got my attention. Actually, something happened several years ago that really kind of scared me, concerned me. I was driving back from Chicago. It was about a 4-hour drive back. And I remember being frustrated that I was frustrated and being concerned about the way I felt because I just left a meeting with this company that I was working for. And they had just said, Todd, we're going to give you had a target bonus of X. We're going to give you a target bonus of 1.5X. Okay, it was 50% more than we had talked about, what I expected. And on the way home, I was frustrated because I realized I thought I would be happy. This was a tremendous achievement. It was a huge achievement. It was a lot of money. And it was like twice as much, the bonus was twice as much money as I made my first year right out of college. Okay, it was a significant amount of money. And it bothered me because I wasn't happy. I thought, if I get a big bonus, I'm going to be happy. And I wasn't happy. I was flat, maybe even a little frustrated. That scared me because it made me think, if this doesn't make me happy, if achieving this kind of success doesn't make me happy, am I ever going to be happy? Am I going to spend the rest of my life being unhappy? Because one of the things I was guilty of was living in the gap, constantly putting happiness on the other side of achievement. So the question is, what do we do instead? Are we destined to just be frustrated, or should we dial back the ambition and lower our standards? No, the answer is to live in the gain, as Dan Sullivan calls it, living in the gain. Here's what he says about the gain. Quote, the gain is a proactive, creative, and internal approach to measuring yourself and your experiences. When you're in the gain, you're only measuring yourself against yourself. More directly, you're only measuring yourself against where you were before, in the past. As Dan states, the only way to measure the distance you've traveled is by measuring from where you are back to the point where you started, not from where you are toward the horizon. Let me say this again. We're going to go through this exercise in a few minutes. He says the only way to measure the distance you've traveled, the only way to measure your progress is by measuring from where you are back to the point where you started, not from where you are toward the horizon. So that's what we're going to do today. All right, I'm going to show you how to live in the gain. I'm going to show you how to live in the gain, very practically speaking. You don't even have to read the book. There's an entire book about the gap versus the gain. In a few minutes, I'm going to show you how to live in the gain. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to imagine the version of yourself 5 years ago. Imagine you 5 years ago. So here it is, early 2024. If you're listening in early 2024, we're talking about the version of you in 2019, the 2019 version of you, okay? Now imagine that person, that the 5 year ago version of you, somehow time traveled to the present and they dropped into your current situation. They came to your office, came to your house, jumped in the truck and drove around with you, and they interviewed you, okay? Imagine that. George Patton once said, a good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan next week. So while the general was really well known for the violently executed part, his success started with the first 3 words of that statement, a good plan. So I'd like to pose a couple of questions to you. Number 1, how much time have you spent creating a good plan for your business for the next 12 months? Question number 2 is, how clear is your team on the plan or the strategy for the next 12 months? Look, as a leader, it's your responsibility to have a good plan and then to articulate it to the team, right? They're kind of depending on you for that. So if you would like some help with developing your good plan, your strategy for your business, I have something for you. Right now, you can download our strategic planning guide that's been used by hundreds of our clients over the past 5 years, and you can get it for free. In the time that it would take to watch a couple of episodes of Ted Lasso, which is a great show, by the way. But in the time it would take to watch a couple of episodes, you can have clarity on your strategy for the next year to be able to share with your team. And it's probably going to help you to have that clarity as well. And you'll have some well-defined goals to work on. So you can download your copy of our strategic planning guide for free by going to constructionleadingedge.com/planning, PLANNING. That's constructionleadingedge.com/planning. And I have another resource for you. Another question. If you own a construction business, I'm curious if any of these statements I'm about to read sound familiar. The first one is, every problem comes to me. Maybe it feels like you're just winging it. If maybe you think, I can't get away from work. I can't turn it off. It's starting to consume my life. I'm afraid we're going to lose people because of the chaos. If I try to take a vacation, I'll have a shitstorm waiting for me when I get back. That's an actual quote. Maybe you have plans for the next business venture, but you feel stuck in the day-to-day. You feel like a visionary who is stuck in day-to-day operations. Maybe you're worried, what's going to happen if we try to grow this business? And maybe if you're being honest, you're wondering, am I the only one who's struggling with this? Am I the only one who hasn't figured this out? Well, if any of those statements sound familiar, you're not alone. Okay, here's something that will help you. Over the past 5 years here at Construction Leading Edge, we've helped over 300 construction business owners, and we figured out that there are a few crucial systems that will help you get out of your business, get out of firefighting. A while back, I presented a masterclass on those crucial systems to a few hundred builders, remodelers, and general contractors who use CoConstruct. And right now you can access that video masterclass for free. It's called Get Out of Your Construction Business, How to Make It Run Without You This Year. If you'd like to get a free copy of that video masterclass that you can watch whenever you want to, go to constructionleadingedge.com/get out. Enter your info and we'll send it to you. That's constructionleadingedge.com/get out. GETOUT. Okay. So the 5-year ago version of you time traveled to today. They're interviewing you. They're going to ask you a few questions. All right. Imagine that the 5-year ago version of you said, hey, 2024 version or future version of us, have we gone through any adversity in the last 5 years? Imagine they ask you that. Hey, have we gone through any adversity in the past 5 years? What would you tell them? If you think back, well, yeah, we've had a few bumps in the road. Here we are in early 2024. We've had a few bumps in the road in the past 5 years. To name a few, there was a global pandemic and the entire world shut down. In fact, at times it sounded like we were all going to die. It seemed like an existential extinction level event that was going to wipe out the human race, right? That was a little bump in the road. There was some adversity that we faced. And then in 2020, there was what you might call a circus of a presidential election, right? Remember that? And then, lumber prices skyrocketed twice. Seemed like construction was going to end. Then inflation went through the roof, and it seemed like there was another recession coming. There was all this talk about the great financial crisis 2.0, that we were going to have another 2008 level financial crisis, another recession. And then, don't forget, Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, and there was talk about World War III. Then interest rates spiked and went through the roof, causing all sorts of problems. And over the past 5 years, it seemed like every few months there was a new threat that came along that was going to shut down construction. We were going to have another GFC, Great Financial Crisis 2.0, right? So imagine you explained all of this adversity, and maybe there was some other adversity that you've dealt with. You explain this to the 5-year ago version. The 5-year ago version might say, like, listen to all of that. Global pandemic, world shutdown, extinction level event, lumber prices skyrocketing, World War III, inflation, interest rates. He might say, holy shit, that's crazy. Did we accomplish anything during all of that? Like, it must have been really tough to get anything done. And you would think back, well, over the past 5 years, you might describe some of the projects you've accomplished despite all of that adversity. You might talk about how your team has grown, some of the improvements you've made to the business, some of the great clients you've worked with, some of the great team members that you've hired, some of the great things you've done. You might even talk about what's different about your personal life Maybe your family has grown. Maybe you have some new members of the family. Maybe you've had some kids graduate high school, moved on to college. Maybe you've had grandkids in the past 5 years. And after listening to all of that adversity you went through, and then listening to what you've achieved and what you've accomplished over the past 5 years, the 5 year ago version might say something that I heard in the movie The Nice Guys with Ryan Gosling. At one point in the movie, he said, I think I'm indestructible. That's the only thing that makes sense. So after listening to all of this adversity, extinction level events, looming recession, and then to hear about what you accomplished, not only did you survive all of that adversity, but you accomplished things. The 5 year ago version of you might think, we are clearly indestructible. That's the only thing that makes sense. So that, my friends, is how you live in the game. Compare your current situation to the past, and then look at what you've accomplished. Look at what you've endured. Look at what you've survived. That's how you live in the game. So I went through this exercise with one of my clients a month or so ago, and he was really struggling with growing his team and was frustrated about his apparent lack of progress. So I took him through this process and said, okay, let's look at where you were in 2019, right? 5 years ago. What did the business look like? Where were you at with revenue? Where were you at with the size of your team? What size projects were you doing? Were you getting paid for pre-construction and estimating? And let's look at where you were, okay? Now let's look at what you survived. Took him through this process: global pandemic, interest rates, lumber prices, multiple extinction level events. Every month, there was some prognosticator of doom saying that construction was going to come to a grinding halt. And then I said, all right, let's compare where you were at the end of 2023. Where was your revenue? And his revenue was 3 times what his revenue was in 2019. He had hired multiple people. He was doing larger projects, getting paid for pre-construction and estimating. And he had made tremendous advancements in his systems and processes. And he only realized that by consciously and intentionally looking at the gain, because unfortunately, it seems like we're hardwired to live in the gap and focus on what's going wrong, comparing our current situation to the horizon, to this ideal, and being frustrated by that. So I want you to ask yourself, think about this for a minute. What adversity have you survived in the past few years? Maybe you've had some personal adversity. If you are in the construction industry, you probably faced all of that adversity that I just listed, and there's probably a few other things that I didn't even mention in there. And then what have you accomplished in that time? In the face of that adversity, despite all of that adversity, what have you accomplished? What progress have you made? That's how you live in the game. This is something you need to do intentionally. And you probably want to do this periodically. It might even be a good idea to write this stuff down when you find yourself frustrated and it seems like you're not doing any good, you're not making any progress. The little voice in your head, the little bitch voice in your head is saying, you should probably just wind it up. You should probably quit. You should probably just give up, right? It would be good to have a document, maybe a running document of the things you're accomplishing, to be able to go back and look at it. That's how you live in the game. And that's what's going to power you forward. It's going to power you forward a lot better than living in the gap. So, switching gears a little bit, the reality is you may be listening to this thinking, you know what, I'm not satisfied with the progress that I've made in the past few years. Things are stagnant. Things are the same as they were. Maybe things have reversed a little bit. Maybe things are even worse than they were 12 months ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. Maybe you're not satisfied. Maybe the reality is there's just not much gain there. You've survived, but you're not making any progress, or you're not happy with your progress. Well, that's where Alex Thompson, the owner of Monon Construction Group, was a while back before joining our Systematize Your Construction Business program. So up next, I want to play an interview for you where our Leyah Hostetter, our Director of Customer Success, sat down with Alex Thompson to talk about what enjoyable profits are, what having his CEO schedule did for him, what he was missing when it came to pre-construction, and then some of the side effects, some of the gain that he's experienced since learning how to nail the handoff from our program. So we're going to play that in just a minute, but here's the deal. If you have a problem in your personal life, in your business, in your health, or if there's something you're not happy with, okay, you really have three options. I've coached hundreds of people, and if you want to make a change, it really comes down to three options, okay? Option one, if there's a problem or there's something you want to change, you have three options. Here are the options, the way I see them. Option one is do nothing. You can choose to do nothing. And if that's your choice, great, own it. But do nothing means status quo. I'm going to keep doing the same things, and I'm going to keep getting the same results, okay? And if that's your decision, own it. Option two is to DIY it. You're going to do it yourself. You're going to figure it out yourself. Watch YouTube videos, read books, listen to podcasts, go to seminars, trial and error. If it's a business issue, a relationship issue, a health issue, you can probably figure it out yourself. It's going to take a while. You will have a long, steep, potentially expensive learning curve. But if that's your option that you want to take, maybe that's the only option you have due to financial constraints or the lack of information, that's option two, is to figure it out yourself. Option three, if you have a problem or a challenge, is to find a proven system that delivers the results you want and then invest in that system, right? The way I think about it, it's like every time I've needed to order concrete, I invested in a proven system. I had to have concrete, so option one wasn't an option. Doing it myself didn't make sense. I wasn't going to go build my own ready mix plant. I was going to find somebody with a proven system that delivered the result that I wanted. Ready mix concrete coming out the back or the front of a concrete truck. So that's option three. Find a proven system that delivers the results you want and then invest in that system. That's why you use subcontractors. That's why you don't own a ready mix plant. That's why you probably don't own a sawmill. You're buying lumber from somebody who has a proven system. So you'll find that Alex Thompson decided, maybe after trying some other options, he chose option three. So here's that interview with Alex Thompson. Enjoy.
Alex, thank you so much for joining me today. Would you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
My name is Alex Thompson. I'm the owner of Monon Construction Group. I've been in the construction industry since I carried my dad's tool belt when I was 4 years old and took over my construction business with my stepfather back in 2007. Geez, that kind of ages me a little bit. So 16 years I've been working in one form or another of a construction business and took ownership in 2014 and have built the business. We're a full service general contractor. We do primarily commercial construction now, but we still perform some custom residential remodeling for select clientele.
Okay. And tell us about the size of your business as well as where you're located.
We're located in Indianapolis, Indiana. The size of my business, I have 7 direct staff members, and then we have about 3 part-time employees. So we're built for scale as we get across bigger projects. But that's my core group.
Very good. Thank you. So you just wrapped up the SYCB program a couple of weeks ago. I want to take you back maybe 2 or 3 months ago before you signed up for the program. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the frustration and the chaos that you were experiencing back then in your business?
Yeah, I was tired of the lack of accountability. I was lack of systems to track accountability and the loss of revenue without a clear indicator of how I was losing profit. You learn how to become a good craftsman in your company, and you learn how to do things right, but be able to get people to buy into that, to do how you do it. You're duplicating yourself, and that's rather hard to do. And nobody gives you the playbook on how to do that. You start with a truck, and then you move to an office, and you get more sophisticated. That doesn't necessarily translate to profits and sanity. So,
yeah, absolutely. I think that's a relatable story for so many of our clients and potential clients is you're really great at what you do. You're a good tradesman. And now you're trying to build a business and you're like, how do I actually do this? Maybe I have some ideas of what that is, but how do I translate this and how do I get my team on board? Tell me a little bit about what that felt like for you, like personally, or even just day to day. What were some of the frustrations or the chaos that you experienced because of where you were at with these challenges?
All the phone calls ran through me. I had all the information in my head. Mistakes were constantly being repeated. You make up a new rule every day, or your guys and gals who work for you make up new rules to make their life either easier, whether that's a good or a bad easy. And so that was very frustrating.
Yeah, I can imagine. Did that affect your life personally beyond work?
It did. You find that your phone was after 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. You're scrambled to make plans. You're constantly engaging with clients on half completed ideas and plans that they're just as much as fault for having those incomplete plans as I was. And, through the SYCB program, I learned that it's completely in my purview. It's completely in my control to guide the client and establishing a set of principles that they could be guided by that would allow the project to become successful. And some people just think you show up with a hammer and nail and you got to get it done. And some people are used to a very chaotic brand of construction and how it's organized. And they feel that's just how construction is. And at the end of the day, construction is just another business of thousands of other businesses around the world are run. You can choose to run a very disorganized process, or you can choose to have a very professional, streamlined process. And I feel that that's where I'm headed.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting that you bring that up because I think in some ways it's almost worn as a badge of honor that you're really busy and constantly putting out fires and running here and running there. But that does a lot to your quality of life, both at work and when you're back home, which it sounds like work never really ended for you before this program.
Right. And people would always ask you, are you busy? And I'm like, well, am I busy bad or busy good? And, you don't know when you say you're busy, you don't know if you're moving the needle in the direction of the outcomes that you want. So It's like, yeah, I'm busy, but I know what's at the end of the road of this busyness. Complete a successful project to make the profit margins that, make your busyness valuable. If I'm just busy because I'm disorganized, that doesn't necessarily translate into the goals that you wish to accomplish and why you're in business to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good distinction to make. There are definitely different forms of busyness. Thank you, Alex, for sharing all of that. So I want you to jump ahead now. You've been in the SYCB program. You're starting to learn some different things, which I know you already kind of had an idea of what you were wanting to get out of this program. But take me to that moment in the program where you were like, wow, this is going to work. This is going to really help my business.
I think one of the biggest things, and it's such a small detail, was the CEO schedule. It's the very first thing that we did. And it was able to allow me to allocate my time. I was able to see where I was giving my time away. And I created, the CEO schedule created these silos that I had to place my time. And then I really understood that there are so many hours in a day. And that if I wanted to add all these special requests or running around putting out fires, that I was going to have to take away time from my family and my personal ventures and other ventures of business that I was doing. And it made me realize how important that level of time is, because I used to have 2 to 3 appointments a week on my calendar. And, it was either a sales call or doing this. And then everything else that was left wide open was unstructured. So I felt like I was, spinning all the plates at once. And at any given time, one plate comes crashing down. I lose my focus. They all come crashing down. Yeah. So that was a real game changer for me. I know it's, 1% of the program, but that really struck a chord with me.
Yeah, it's extremely foundational to the success of this program and, quite frankly, the success of your business. to get really organized with your time and really honest with yourself as to where am I wasting my time and how am I being distracted from what's most important. And that is why we introduced this right up front. So I'm happy to hear that that was a value add for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are so many other things that were important to us with the SYCB program. The nail the handoff was, by far the biggest selling feature. On a team level, on a company level, it was. But personally, the CEO schedule for me was the beginning. So that was the first step.
Very good. And you might have already alluded to the answer to this next question, but what was most impactful or beneficial for you within this program?
The nail the handoff.
Okay.
Certainly I never gave any credence to pre-construction. It was like estimate the job, get the job, and arrive at the hardware store the next day, put the job together in the back of your truck or your trailer, have everybody meet you at the
job site,
hardware store, the supply store, pile it on the back, go to the shop, get all the tools all together, go to the job and introduce them to the job for the first time. And, hopefully there are no hiccups. Hopefully you look organized, for years, I saw that pre-construction line item in contracts, and I'm like, who uses that, or why is that in there? And now that is an enormous part of what I look at. I feel very confident that in the pre-construction process, which is what the nail the handoff is, that again, it goes back to CEO schedule. I'm valuing my time. I knew that paying for estimates was a thing out there. I was moving towards that anyways, but we always had the question of what does the client get the value out of? I'm saying, hey, it's going to cost you $20,000 before we even get to the project and start doing it. It's like, how am I delivering value to the client before they sign those checks over and say, yeah, I'll sign this agreement. You're going to give me what? And just to see the what that goes into the nail the handoff is a successful project. It in itself is a product that your company can provide that actually has value. So, if somebody told me to go out and write up paid for estimates, that's one thing. But the back end of what you give for that product is the result of the nail the handoff, all the planning and everything. And so it kind of holds us, we could create a pre-construction process out of thin air, and that might be well and good, but going through the SYCB program placed an immense value of how we arrive there versus somebody just handing you the playbook and saying, this is what you need to do to get paid for estimates and run a successful business. I think the organic approach to building our own process is what makes the SYCB program very successful. And it's what I feel is going to make us successful.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that. Absolutely. You could easily just pay for a template and be like, this is how you do it, but it's not yours. And there's so many aspects to that make it a success through the SYCB program. We provide you the tools and the training, and you and your team are creating it. And the reason why that's so effective, and I'm sure you'll probably speak to this, is because your team is involved in that. Everybody is gathering together and they're coming with all of their best ideas and creating something that's going to work for you. And when your team's involved in doing it, then they have more buy-in. They're excited about it. They want to actually follow something they created. Did you find that to be the experience you and your team had when going through this?
Yes, I did. And it allowed to also exit out employees that we're not going to buy in or not be held accountable for that process. And that in itself is a very structural change to your company, is who is going to have your back, who's going to want to carry the baton that much further, because that leads to my phone doesn't ring after 5:00 PM. Somebody else is dealing with that, and they're dealing with it well because they created that process, not me. They're not following some checklist. I mean, they are, but it's one that they understood why. What's the why? What's the how? Because they created it. So I felt that was a very important, is that, when you train, you don't train mentally. A lot of times you have to experience the process itself in a training in order to know what is going to be successful, what is not going to be successful, because everybody learns differently. Everybody does things differently. And we need to have that flexibility for all types of people. And, just having something you can buy off the shelf doesn't necessarily fit the mold that we want to create.
Yeah, absolutely. So, now you've institute a lot of these things. You've started to put this into your business and implement it. You're a few weeks beyond the completion of the program. And like many of our clients, still have some work to continue to do, as we all do. But tell me how things are a little bit different for you now versus 3 months ago before you started this.
Well, because you work from right to left. So we know the outcomes we want. It's like, we want to make $1 bazillion. How are we going to make the $1 bazillion? Well, work backwards. How are we going to get to that point? Whereas, the mindset before was, let's just get some really big jobs that make, have a big profit line. And then hopefully it gets us to that $1 bazillion. No, it's, you don't build the Golden Gate Bridge on the first try. You do a lot of planning to get to that level of sophistication to be able to generate enjoyable profits. So, and that goes, I say enjoyable profits is because we can spend all day long making widgets. I don't think money is ever going to make anybody happy. It's how we go about making the money in the process of doing that. Is that process, enriching in our lives? And so I think along the way of doing the planning, we can fit those in. How can we make things enjoyable?
Yeah.
So I think that's very important for me. I could probably stand to say that a lot of other people feel the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that you said that. I don't know that anyone's quite shared that experience with me in that way. But regardless of whether we have a very specific process that we're very active in creating, like we guide you to do through Nail the Handoff or not, if you don't have that, you have some type of a process, but it's probably not a very enjoyable one for anyone to follow because there's a lot of loose ends, there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of frustration versus something like this where, yes, you're putting the time up front. Yes, you're slowing things down to really work on this. But when you now are following it, it's much more enjoyable, to your point. What about that has been enjoyable for you or even maybe for your team, if you want to share some of that?
What in particular? The process,
building the process and starting to now follow it and implement it.
That it's like Todd Dawalt said, his statement is, how is this the last time that I have to do this, or automation. So that's our mantra now. It's like, what does winning look like? So what does winning look like? It's an outcome. And how is this the last time I'm going to do this is our overarching goal for our process. Let's make this kind of not foolproof, but let's make it so it's like a train is still on the tracks. So we got to keep maintaining the tracks, but as long as we keep maintaining it and improving it, the train will run on time. And that's enjoyable because nobody in construction, you find that it's a very hard industry to time. So Friday, 5:00, you might stay till 7:00 on a Friday to finish those last few things, but you can make that decision 2 weeks in advance after doing this program if you want to stay late. But this program allows us to plan that we can have a 9-to-5 job. I know everybody always says, oh, those are banker's hours. Why can't construction companies have banker's hours? So, or any other industry that only works 8 to 5 and they leave their work at work. And so I think we can do that too. I think that's what this program does.
Yeah. And have you seen that? You had mentioned earlier that you were getting phone calls late at night and throughout the day and, everything was routing through you. Has that shifted?
Oh yeah. I don't get any.
Oh, great. That's a big change right there.
It's not even after the 5:00 phone calls. I'm getting probably 10% of what I used to.
Wow. That frees up a lot of time.
A lot of time. So, and then do the accountability chart and working on my business has allowed me to see where I'm going to expand and, ultimately replace myself. So that's pretty huge that I can plan out that far, is that we create this process. It's humming. I'm still wearing a lot of hats, but now I know where I'm going to give the hats away to make that process successful.
Yeah. What I'm really hearing what you're saying, Alex, is in these last few months of working with us, you're now genuinely sitting in the CEO driver's seat
I am.
versus putting out the fires and having your hands in so many things. You get to be the CEO.
Yeah, I get to be the CEO, and I feel that our clients will be able to trust that they have accountable people on site, that we present ourselves on current projects that we're on and ones that we're going in the future. Like, these are the people that are going to handle these issues. It's not me. You don't want me to be part of those problem solving things. These are the people that are going to help you. And so that cuts down on the calls. That cuts down on the confusion, is that once we've worked out all the pre-construction, the nail, the handoff, and they know what roles the clients are going to deal with, that everybody feels better about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing your experience. It's, of course, has been a pleasure to be able to coach and guide you through this, and look forward to hearing of future successes.
Yeah, well, you've been a great coach, Leyah. I really appreciate your energy and the coaching where I thought it was just overwhelmed, but it is an overwhelming feeling to revamp your business. But your guidance was much appreciated.
And hope you enjoyed that episode. Be sure to check out the show notes for more details over at constructionleadingedge.com/podcast. And if you get value out of this podcast, would you do me a favor? Would you please leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify? And if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you own a construction business and you feel stuck, or you feel like you're spending too much time in day-to-day firefighting, maybe dealing with all of the problems, if everything's stuck in your head, or if you just don't feel like you have time or energy to work on your business because you feel like you're stuck working in it, if you want your business to run without you so you can take a vacation, or maybe to be able to sell your business one day, or if you just frankly want the business to survive if something happens to you, then there are 4 crucial systems that you need to have in place. Number 1, if you're a home builder, remodeler, or a commercial general contractor, you have to get paid for estimates. Those free estimates are killing your bottom line, sucking the life out of you. And you can get all the tools you need to get paid for estimates, the templates, sales scripts, pricing guidance, and let's face it, the confidence that you need. You can get all of that for free right now over at constructionleadingedge.com/start. You'll get the entire Get Paid for Estimates masterclass. Go to constructionleadingedge.com/start. You can get all of that for free. The second crucial system is that you need to design your business for the future. You need to establish the major functions of your business and the results that each function is accountable for. You need to have clearly defined roles and responsibilities. This is the foundation of every successful business, and the best way to do that is to design your accountability chart for the future. Number 3, you need to design and document your process to nail the handoff from the office to the field. This is a very disciplined and documented process that maps out every step of the pre-construction process. Look, companies that are good construction companies are actually good pre-construction companies. They're good pre-construction companies. And when you design your nail the handoff process and you have this in place, this is going to eliminate 80% of the profit bleeds and the schedule delays and chaos on your job sites. And you'll also need to learn the secret sauce for getting your team to actually implement and follow a process. Number 4, the 4th crucial system are the leadership systems that your team will use to convert your goals into reality. Look, somebody needs to be planning tomorrow's work today. Someone needs to be doing a 2-week look ahead. Someone needs to be establishing the most important things for the next 6 to 8 weeks. And you need to be having regular team meetings that are actually functional. Those are your leadership systems. And if you would like our help putting those crucial systems in place in your business so that your business can run without you. So you can get out of day-to-day firefighting and take that firefighter hat off. Or if you want to be able to sell your business one day, here's the next step. Go to constructionleadingedge.com/apply and schedule a free business evaluation call with our team. On that call, we're going to do a few things. We'll help you uncover the real root causes of your problems. Number 2, help you get clear on your objectives that you want to accomplish. And then number 3, to map out a plan to make it a reality. We'll also share with you some of the things that our construction business owner clients are doing to accomplish their goals and solve the problems that you're probably dealing with. And then if you're a fit, it looks like we have a good mutual fit, we'll discuss our Systematize Your Construction Business program. So to schedule your free business evaluation, head on over to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, APPLY. Hey, thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.